160,000. That is the number of Brits alone who were found to have their bank details being sold over the dark web in a report from May of 2023. That was nearly as many as both Italy and France combined, and the highest number in Europe, despite the UK having a population much smaller than the sum of those two countries. In an article written by Jim Norton, the technology editor at the Daily Mail, he wrote that these cards were being sold on average for just £4.61 each. It was stated that many of these stolen cards came bundled with a treasure trove of other sensitive information, including home addresses, phone numbers, and national insurance numbers, and worse yet, many of these people have absolutely no clue that their information has been breached. Just one of those 160,000 could be me, or it could be you, and we would have no clue until the worst happens. Each year, this happens to thousands of people across the globe. It is not exclusive to one single country, and it is still very much an ongoing problem. This incident was reported back in May of 2023, but just a few months prior in October 2022, it was reported that Biden Cash gave away the information of 1.2 million credit cards for absolutely free. Then they went even further in March of 2023, releasing the information of over 2 million cards. According to my source, Flashpoint, these cards were dumped onto a Russian-speaking darknet forum called XSS. Flashpoint's initial discoveries found that half of these cards belonged to people living in the USA. Fewer than 5% of them were UK or Chinese based, but on a bit more of a light note, most of these cards are expected to expire at some point this year. On yet another dark note, however, Flashpoint released this pie chart of the 5 largest card shops by volume. Biden Cash is in fact one of the largest, but in the grand scheme of things, it's only a drop in the pond. Worse yet, as it turns out, credit card theft is only the tip of the iceberg. I want to draw your attention to an independent article I found during my research for this video titled Dark Web. Hackers sell doctors' identities for $500 in disturbing new trend. It claims that back in 2019, dark web users thought that a good way to obtain controlled drugs and to commit insurance fraud was by targeting hospitals and other healthcare organizations. It went on to say that the disturbing new trend was uncovered by researchers at cybersecurity firm Carbon Black, who tracked the shifting patterns of cyber attacks towards medical organizations. Carbon Black, when interviewed, went on to claim that not only were cyber attacks on the rise, but they were also higher in quality, both in terms of operation and target. Doctors have access. They have the ability to write prescriptions and whatnot, making drugs easier to obtain. Now, fortunately, this was reported back in 2019, and in the 4 years since, it seems as though this hot new trend has turned to cold radio silence. Nonetheless, it still stands as a stark reminder of just how unpredictable the darkest depths of the dark web can be. You might question, how do I even stay safe? Do I have to burn my online identity to the ground, smash up all my technology, and go into hiding? Well, fortunately for you, instead of running away from your problems, you can stay right where you are and download a virtual private network or a VPN. You don't even need to leave your seat because I actually have a VPN for you, that being UltraVPN, the sponsor of today's video. When I was over in the USA recently, I had forgotten to get myself a SIM so that I could use my data whilst I was over there. Because of that, I had to log into public Wi-Fi in order to do any work. And you guys best believe that when you're using public Wi-Fi, your information is particularly vulnerable. To protect myself, it was only natural that I used UltraVPN for that extra layer of security. I was given the choice of more than 100 servers to use, each of which bypass blocks set up by your internet service provider or even the government, and none of which collect your activity logs, meaning that not only can you bypass censorship, but you also have privacy when you're doing it. UltraVPN even comes with a dark web scan that notifies you if your information is put onto the dark web, and even better yet, you don't need to be a doctor to use it, nor do you need to make a doctor's salary, because UltraVPN has ultra low prices compared to its competitors. As a new customer, you can access a premium VPN for a discounted monthly rate of $1.99 by choosing a 2-year plan, and if you don't like it, Ultra offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. However, this deal is a limited time offer, so if you want to sign up today, simply click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen now. That's all you need to do, just a click of the button or a scan of the code and peace of mind can be yours. Once again, I want to thank UltraVPN for being the sponsor of today's video. With that said, I think that it's time that we break down what the dark web actually is. So first of all, we should probably establish what we're talking about, because there are a lot of people out there that use the terms dark web and deep web interchangeably, but this should not be the case. The dark web is what we're talking about today, and it's synonymous with the Tor browser. The deep web, however, is anything that can't be accessed directly through the internet, so anything that's behind a firewall or password protected. You might sometimes hear the claim that the deep web makes up something like 95% of the internet, which is apparently true, but when you consider that everyone in the world's email or bank account are technically part of the deep web because they're password protected, it makes a little bit more sense. For that reason, the dark web is a subset of the deep web. It's even further down the iceberg. Some people talk about the dark web as a sort of boogeyman lurking in the background waiting to strike. And though this can be the case in some instances, it's not the whole story. Do the Gary Glissers of the world use it? Some of them, yes. However, there are a lot of perfectly good legal reasons why someone might use the dark web, and it doesn't necessarily mean that every single dark web user is some sort of zooted up, armed Nazi assassin. So in most cases, you'll find that it's not actually illegal to access the dark web. Unless you're Gary Glitter, in which case it is very illegal because the mere thought of accessing the dark web would violate your parole and you'll get sent right back behind bars. But if you're the average Joe with no criminal intent, using something like Tor is completely fine. It's only when you start doing illegal activities on the dark web that you've broken the law. It's not illegal to use the dark web, it's only doing illegal stuff whilst you're on there. A lot of news outlets sensationalize, exaggerate, and fearmonger what's up on the dark web or what might be out there, but I'm quite confident that most people that write these articles have never actually accessed the dark web. They act on fear of the unknown, and they know that many members of the general public, especially the older generations, don't really know how it works, and they will be scared too. This leads to more clicks, it leads to shares and sales, and it works for them, but it's not exactly reality. The truth is more nuanced, because of course there's a criminal underworld lurking beneath the shadows, but to claim that that's the entirety of the dark web isn't correct. Many people use it because they don't want their internet activity monitored, and those fools don't feel like copping a sweet VPN deal, which is lunacy to me, but I digress. Others use it because they live in a country that has oppressive rules on free speech, and so they take to the dark web as a way around that. Some users could be whistleblowers, or people wanting to access academic resources without paying, or maybe they want to access perfectly legal forums that aren't present on the normal web. Case in point, did you know that the BBC is on the dark web? This is legitimate. There have been many countries that have blocked access to the BBC, and so it decided to go onto the dark web so that internationals that have been banned from accessing it would have the possibility if they so choose. The BBC reported that the dark web copy of the website will be the international edition as seen from outside the UK. It includes foreign language versions such as BBC Russian, BBC Persian, and BBC Arabic. Accessing the BBC doesn't exactly seem like the sort of image that you would imagine when you think of activity on the dark web, but again, a lot of people use it to access perfectly legal content that they otherwise wouldn't be able to see. And it's the same deal with many mainstream news outlets. The Intercept, for example, which I've used as a source for many of my videos, also has a Tor service. As does The Guardian, as does BuzzFeed News, and also ABC News, The Financial Times, TechCrunch, and The Washington Post, just to name a few. Now, granted, the name The Dark Web doesn't really do it any favours, but criminal activity is not the be-all and end-all of the service. It does exist, don't get me wrong, the theft of card information is rife, weapons and drugs are frequently sold, as I'll cover in a moment, but crime is not the only thing that happens on the dark web. Hitman hirings are not as frequent as you might think, and the Red Rooms or live-stream torture websites are thought to be a myth. With that said though, there wouldn't be much of a video here if I didn't talk about just a few of the juiciest stories and topics that the dark web presents. And what better place to continue than by talking about the drug crimes that go on there, so go and grab your brownies and let's get into it. We touched on this a little bit before. If you remember back to the first segment of this video, one of the reasons that I said doctors were getting their identities stolen was that these online thieves wanted to obtain controlled drugs. However, that story was just at the foot of the mountain. If you want some scale for this story, I stumbled upon a Guardian article written by Matt Busby, published in November 2019, which shed some light on it. Busby wrote that organised crime groups based in the UK generate more money from selling illegal drugs on the dark web than any other country in Europe, according to the EU's drug agency. The article went on to say that darknet vendors in the UK were estimated to have sold drugs worth more than £24 million with a total weight of 2,825 kilograms between 2017 and 2018. Though it should be noted that though this trade was more lucrative for the UK, Germany actually sold the most in terms of volume in Europe, trading more than 3,000 kilograms, though with these only being worth 60 million, a far cry off the UK's worth. We've done it, lads. We've beaten those Germans, because obviously the measure of your country's greatness is how much its illegal substances sell for on the dark web. But unfortunately, Brits, before you start waving around your Union Jacks, it should be said that though Germany has the highest sales of illegal drugs in Europe, the German police are also some of the best when it comes to stopping illegal activity on the dark web. There was yet another Guardian article I found, this one written in May 2019, that reported on German police shutting down one of the biggest dark websites in the world. This site was called the Wall Street Market, or WSM, and it was said that WSM acted as a sort of Amazon or eBay type deal. But in stereotypical dark web fashion, most things on there were much more illegal than the sorts of things that you can get on Amazon or eBay, so we're talking various illegal drugs, counterfeit goods such as jewelry and gold, malicious malware, stolen data, fake documents, and so on and so forth. The article reads that the encrypted platform had more than 1 million customer accounts, over 5,000 registered sellers, and more than 60,000 sales offers. 3 German men, located in Baden-Württemberg, Hesse, and North Rhine-Westphalia respectively, were alleged to be the administrators of the site. They were subsequently arrested, while a 4th man, who prosecutors say acted as an online mediator for the website, was also arrested in Brazil. Upon doing further research into the world of dark web drugs, I was directed to something that caught my eye. Remember when I said that the dark web is nuanced? It's not as black and white as some people would have you believe, and I want to back that point up by showing you this. If you saw my video on Snapchat controversies, you'd know that I discussed the fentanyl epidemic that's establishing itself in the USA. Deaths due to the drug have been steadily increasing over the past few years, and it tends to be young people especially that are paying the price. Now, just to recap on the Snapchat video in case you haven't seen it, some people were buying fentanyl outright, however others were buying other things but were given fentanyl instead. Well, it's been reported that many major dark web suppliers have decided to voluntarily ban the substance because it's too dangerous. Though it also needs to be said that one of the reasons behind the decision to ban the drug is that if a bunch of people go and take it and then die, of course the police are only going to naturally designate more resources into trying to crack down on this kind of thing, so I guess there is a selfish motivation there, it's not all black and white. Nonetheless, in recent years, law enforcement around the world have been becoming ever more present on the dark web, which has led to an increase in arrests. So let's do what I always do with the lads at the pub after 3 pints and talk about the biggest ever busts. It was this news story that really drew my attention towards law enforcement's increased crackdown because it was revealed that back in May, 300 people or thereabouts in Europe and America were arrested in what's been described as the largest takedown in dark web history. It was revealed that this number, just shy of 300, was comprised of 153 Americans, 55 Brits, 52 Germans, 10 Dutch, 5 French, 2 Swiss, a Pole, and a Brazilian. So I decided to make this cute little pie chart to show it off. According to a Sky News article I read, during raids coordinated by EU law enforcement agency Europol and conducted by authorities including the National Crime Agency and National Police Chiefs Council in the UK, more than £43 million in cash and cryptocurrencies was seized. Authorities say that the seized drugs included 64 kilograms or 141 pounds of fentanyl or fentanyl-laced narcotics, over 258 kilograms or 569 pounds of amphetamines, 43 kilograms or 95 pounds of cocaine and the same weight of MDMA, and over 10 kilograms or 22 pounds of LSD and ecstasy pills. This case is still very fresh, and it will be a while until more substantial details come out, but it's been confirmed that this almost doubled the record of arrests made in a single dark web sting, which was 179 set in the year 2020. In this case, the police seized $6.5 million, or £5 million worth of cash, and of the people arrested, 121 were based in the USA, 2 were Canadian, 42 were Germans, there were 8 Dutch, 4 Brits, 3 Australians, and a Swede, as shown in this little pie chart that I made. In this mission, codenamed Disruptor, FBI officers in Ohio shut down what was described as one of the most prolific online drug trafficking organizations, and in the process were able to arrest a notable vendor who worked under the moniker Pill Cosby. According to a Forbes article, behind Pill Cosby, among other potential suspects, was a pair of brothers who sold various illegal drugs including fentanyl on Dream Market, Silk Road and Wall Street, making more than 5,000 deals on Dream Market alone. There was another notable arrest in the Disruptor raid, however, that being a user who went by Never Pressed RX, who, it's claimed, plotted to use explosives to firebomb and destroy a competitor's pharmacy. What's madder is that the police released a photograph of the user's notebook, with this plan being known as Operation Firewood, and within it very clearly showed the list of items that were needed to execute the plan. The idea was that by firebombing his competitor's pharmacy, Never Pressed could potentially quadruple his earnings, but before he got the chance, the FBI intervened. This kind of thing seems straight out of Walter White's playbook from the show Breaking Bad, who coincidentally a group of Manchester students over here in the north of the UK thought that they were similar to. Apparently, Walter White was an inside joke for this group of 5 men who lived a life of luxury off the back of their $1 million business, partying around the world and making large purchases. They ran a one-stop shop for drugs on Silk Road, and between October 2011 and May 2013, they made more than 6,000 transactions. Unfortunately for them though, they were all eventually captured once Silk Road was shut down. All of the men by the time they were sentenced years later were aged in their mid to late 20s, and each got hard time. This ranged from 7 years for the packager of the operation to 15 years for the supposed ringleader Basil Asaf. The trial was set in 2018, so if he's kept in there for the maximum amount of time, Asaf still has a decade to go. But as I said, their arrest was at the expense of Silk Road itself. They were a mere casualty of the police getting to the bottom of who was behind this, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that story. Perhaps the most high-profile case today, let's talk about Ross Ulbricht. Take a good look at this man. He doesn't seem like the type to have been one of the most wanted men in the USA. He seems like the sort of person that you just walk past in the streets. He's not exactly suspicious looking in the slightest. But looks can be deceiving, as you'll soon find out. Now, if you're knowledgeable in the world of the dark web, Ross Ulbricht is a name that you would have definitely heard of before, because as I said earlier, his arrest was perhaps the most high-profile case of all of these. Many people attribute Silk Road as being the dark web's very first marketplace, being created in 2011 by Ulbricht under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, a reference to Rob Reiner's 1987 classic The Princess Bride. The Silk Road itself was also a reference, this one to the Eurasian trade route between China and Europe. This site being called Silk Road laid out all its plans. Ulbricht, a staunch libertarian, thought that people should be able to buy and sell whatever they wish to without these purchases being traced or tracked, least of all by the government. The site was a success by all accounts, and soon had online articles written about it. This only proved to further spread word of mouth about it, and eventually it grew to more than 100,000 users. But with this increase in popularity also came an increase in Ulbricht's paranoia, with him allegedly putting out almost half a dozen hits on various individuals. Though it should be mentioned that this claim has been fiercely disputed, and Ulbricht never faced any charges for these allegations. Nonetheless, he had every reason to be paranoid, because little did he know that a number of government agents were slowly but surely closing in on him. The investigation lasted more than a year, with various clues leading law enforcement ever closer to the true identity of Dread Pirate Roberts. But it was an IRS investigator named Gary Alford who found the smoking gun after linking one of Ulbricht's aliases, Altoid, to a post that Ulbricht had made when he was looking for someone to help program the site, in which he linked an email that included his full name. Law enforcement had their man, and was able to snatch his laptop from him at a public library after a diversion that came in the form of a lover's quarrel. Ulbricht accepted that he would be imprisoned for a while, but pled to the judge to give him his old age. The judge refused, however, making an example out of Ulbricht. He received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and today he's incarcerated at United States Penitentiary, Tucson. Perhaps he joined the ranks of the various criminal rappers that I spoke about in my SoundCloud video. That one was a great piece of content if you ask me, so if you enjoyed this, you should watch that one next. Also, if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, I would truly appreciate it. Aside from that, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.